And we start out on the offensive side for Michigan. Michigan's offense, they had to replace all 10 players of 10 out of 11. Colston Loveland missed the games. You know that by now. And the coaches, that was something they had, head coach, the deal. So there's no curve on that. I looked at it overall, and I came to the grade of D minus for Michigan. Now, if you think that's harsh, I mean, it is a harsh grade. I mean, it's almost a failing grade. It's almost an F. But when you look at, for me, I looked at the scoring offense in the country at the midway point. Boise, it has an unbelievable, they're averaging over 50 points a game. Miami of Florida, 47. Indiana, noteworthy. They are a top 3 offense as they sit there scoring at 47.5 point clip. Ohio State, not too shabby either at number 4, scoring 46 per game, averaging 46 per game. And there's Michigan at 100. Now, the last 2 years, Michigan had those easy games, easy first 3 games, like East Carolina, UNLV, BG, UConn. I mean, you go through all of them. But the numbers were incredible. Like JJ McCarthy, he's, this, and Michigan had so many superlatives. And the only thing you could say is that, well, they hadn't really played anyone. And in this case, they have played, some teams. But I don't know, I didn't factor that in. I looked at it, the quarterback position, people like to say it is what it is, and that's where they're at. Well, I mean, it's bad. It's bad in the first half. The hope, I think by now looking at it, you have to do a little bit of guesswork. They hoped Tuttle was going to be ready after spring, in that he would have been up for game number 1 and that he would have been their starter. We know that wasn't the case, and they had to go to 2 backups, and neither of those guys performed well. Turnover machine with the one in Davis Warren, and Alex Orji's not a quarterback. He's the thing with Orji is that if you're going to only throw the ball for 32 yards in one game and 86 yards in another game, you need to be like Denard Robinson on the ground when you're running the ball. You need to be like Vince Young. And Alex Orji's not that. I mean, that's a little bit of a surprise to me. We talked about Alex Orji all off season, and we knew we were talking about, well, what's he got to do with a completion percentage? But the thought is that he was going to be special on the ground, that he was going to be like Denard Robinson, and that you would work with him, especially with a defense. We'll get to them. But you think, that he was just going to be someone that was going to be a terror on the ground, and he's not. He's not a special quarterback. I thought maybe that once he got his feet under him after the USC game, you would see improvement there, but you didn't really see that against. He ran for 43 yards against USC, but there was nothing there that you're like, oh man, you really have to watch out, man. He is something on the ground. Not like that, and we all know he got benched during the Washington game. So the quarterback position and the quarterback room, it really does drag everything down. A good quarterback is going to elevate everything. There's a lot of people like, oh, the Michigan wide receivers, they got to run better routes. They're no good. It's recruiting. It's like, what do you mean? Like, give me a quarterback that can put the ball on a receiver, and you'd be talking a lot differently. I mean, look, it's got to be a little bit hypothetical, but I know it's part of it. People are like knocking everything. I don't think the wide receivers, they need to run better routes. When I watched Amari and Walker in the first drive in the third quarter, Michigan's best drive of the year, on that third down, he just ran down the field and cut over the middle. You know what Jack Tuttle did? Hey, put the ball right on him. And then good on Walker that he really took a shot and could have fumbled. He didn't. He hung on to it. That had nothing to do with route running or route trees or recruiting or anything else. That was a wide receiver going out when it was third and 10, I think, Washington expected Michigan to throw the ball, and Tuttle sat back there and fired a strike right on him. And guess what? Great route tree. No, it was a quarterback making a play. And later in that drive, when Colston Loveland scored the touchdown, it wasn't any schematics of, they ran. No, they didn't. Loveland just went out into the end zone, and Tuttle freelanced a little bit and then threw the ball in there and made a play and scored a touchdown. And you could tell even when Tuttle went in with Michigan, even though he just threw one pass to Bredesen, the rest were all runs, including Donovan Edwards' 39-yard touchdown run. It was that even the defense was like, ooh, now okay, we can't just sit up on the wide receivers anymore. And, now we got to play a quarterback. It was different. So my point, I think everybody knows, whether you feel like it's beating a dead horse or anything else, a good quarterback is going to elevate all of it. Now, Michigan needs to have a better play from their offensive line. And you get subpar offensive line play, and you get even worse quarterback play, that's going to make everything sag. I've heard people say, well, Michigan doesn't have a number one wide receiver. Well, they kind of do. Colston Loveland is a wide receiver. I mean, you want to call him a tight end? All right. He's the number one pass catcher. We're going to split hairs. He's the number one option in the pass game. He runs routes like he's a wide receiver. And the opposing team, when they're talking about the passing game, they put him number one. That should open things up for the rest of the receivers if, again, you have a quarterback that can deliver the ball down the field and put it on the wide receivers. And that drive that Michigan had in the third quarter, which I think is the best that they've had all year long, they did throw it to Amarian Walker down the field. They did target Samaj Morgan, and he went for 16 yards. 3 different receivers, along with the running game, complementary football. It was amazing, to see. And it was like, oh, wow. It was like an oasis in the desert, passing the ball and spreading it around and then using the run and getting down there and scoring a touchdown. It was like you hadn't seen it in years. Certainly you hadn't seen it in games, competent quarterback play. But, so the offense, unfortunately, when it comes down to it, they end up almost getting a failing grade. I didn't put them in a failing grade because Khalil Mullings and Donovan Edwards are both a tremendous 1-2 punch. And, we've seen it, whether it was Mullings, the 63-yard run on that 3rd and 1 against USC from the zone 20, or we've seen in that game, in the last game, we've seen Edwards showing flashes of big game Dono, and the run game has been good. But when you have that bad of a passing game, it's hard to get a passing grade when it comes down to the offense. That is where I am at with the offense. Again, I put it and I give it a D- for Michigan's offense. Let's look at what some of the people are saying when it comes down to the report card and grading things out. Mark is rolling out some A+, and he says Graham, Zavada, Stewart, and Mullings an A+. He puts Grant on the list here as giving him an A. Johnson and Loveland an A-. That must be Will Johnson. The rest, he's having a hard time finding a B. I get that. Let's see. Sam says once more said he's making some of his own changes, like loud music at practice, ? That's a major distraction. This isn't the pros. Well, anything you do, and at this point when it's been disappointing, is going to be looked at as a negative. I don't think that's that big of a deal. I'd make the case that college football, and everybody would have to agree with this, Sam, it is as much like the pros, and the pros like college football schematically, paychecks, everything else, NIL. that's as close to the pros as it's ever been. I mean, yeah, we're talking about 5 years ago. Like, no, these guys are students first. These guys are football players, and they're getting paid. And so, yeah, music at practice to me is a nothing. Mark throwing some more grades out there. He says fair. Sam has a lower grade. And Hadley getting in. Good to see him. Special teams has his best grade. He gives it an A. Every other position pretty well below that overall grade, a C. Go Ducks, which is a weird thing to say, but we understand that you're saying it because you want to see them beat Ohio State. I don't know. I think I get it. I think that you'd like to see Ohio State just lose because they put, all of this money, and it's championship or bust, and they have the Big Ten upstart, say upstart in their first year anyways. Oregon, tag them. It would feel good, but I don't know. Like I get it. I get it. Sam is saying Indiana is better than us. I know that's weird. That is weird. Ferris says we got to 5,000. Yeah, what I would like to know, how many people that are watching this, and if you're watching this after the fact, I do go back and read the comments that are made during the YouTube podcast. If you're listening on the pod on the radio in your car, you can use the comment section there. I checked that. It's underutilized. My question, though, for you, if you're not going to do it here, and then if you're watching it after the fact, I would love to have this watch party, go out, whether it's at Illinois or at Indiana. But I got to have I want to know if some people will show up. If everyone, like I know Smash, he came in for the spring game, and I saw him. He was in from California. I've seen some others. Somebody was in from D.C. that came by. I don't know how many people are local or would be interested in coming on out at a selected restaurant, sports bar to watch that game. So tell me where you're at. And if there's a few people, I only need a couple. Look, we'd like to have 100, like to have everyone, like to have all 5,000 out. But let's just see, at least a couple before we're talking about going out. I think I can I'll find a place that can hook me up, and I can do the podcast, the post-game live after Illinois or after Indiana. That's what I'm talking about. Toby is just going with a D overall. He's got Mullings as a positive, and yeah, Mullings certainly is a positive. Let's go to the defensive side. Think it over. A D overall is about where I'm at, and there's the offensive grade. Not fun to look at. Got to hit the books. Got to study. Got to do all that, and there's the reason. Part of it